Hi bestie, how are you doing today? I hope you're having a fantastic day. I'm so happy you made it because we got so much to talk about today. We are going to be doing the summary of A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. So this is in preparation for ACOTAR 6 coming out in October. Now this is going to be a chapter by chapter summary of every little thing that happens in this book so that you don't have to reread it. I already did the rereading, you just get to enjoy. So without further ado, let's just jump right in. Also, if you wanted to access the episodes a couple of days early, or if you wanted access to the notes that I have typed up of the chapter by chapter summaries as well as my theories, you can check out the Patreon. It's patreon.com/bestfriendbookclubpodcast. All of the stuff's going to be posted over there. Let's get into it. So the first scene we have is Feyre is dreaming, and it's her dreaming that she's killing these innocent fairies. Remove the hood of one of them, and it's her. She's killing herself. Wakes up. Okay. Then we're in part 1, The House of Beasts. So, first chapter, we're kind of getting back into what just happened after Under the Mountain. So we find out it's been 3 months since Under the Mountain. Feyre's getting used to her fey body. She's having a little trouble sleeping, and allegedly, Tamlin does not hear her when she wakes up in the middle of the night to vomit, throw up her guts, however you want to say it. And she's basically begging Tamlin. She's like, please, can I just do something? Like, give me something to do. And he keeps telling her no. We find out 2 months ago, Tamlin proposed to her. So fresh after Under the Mountain, 1 month later, Tamlin's proposing. We then meet Ianthe, and she's helping plan this wedding. Ianthe is a priestess, if you don't remember. Feyre is basically hating her entire life, but she, for whatever reason, doesn't feel like arguing with Tamlin or telling him how she's really feeling, because who would do that? So she just is suffering. We also find out that there is no such thing, allegedly, as a high lady. It's just the person is called the lady of whatever court she's in, like the Lady of Autumn. There's no high lady, just a high lord. Tamlin finally gets around to letting Feyre leave the estate on the condition that she leaves with Lucien. So this is also when we learn about the tithe, which is basically give the High Lord some money and he'll protect you when he's available. No promises really, because it doesn't say he promises protection. It's like, when he's able to. They then go to the village and no one wants their help. Everyone's telling Feyre, your debt's been paid. You saved us. We don't want your help, okay? Then we get to the wedding day. Feyre is walking down the aisle, sees these red rose petals after she specifically told Ianthe that she did not want red anything because it reminds her of blood. She starts to mentally spiral, and internally she's asking for help. She's like, help, please, like anyone, someone help me. And here we go. Rhysand pulls up at the end of the chapter and he's like, come with me. Just extends his hand like, here, let's go, baby. Ugh. So far we're at chapter 5. I'm not going to stop every time and be like, this is chapter 5, this is chapter 6. But sometimes I made note of like, at the end of this chapter, this happened. So just bear with me, okay? But we're on chapter 5 in case you were wondering. So Rhys had arrived to cash in on this bargain that him and Feyre made Under the Mountain, where she needs to spend a week with him every month. So he takes her to the night court. Tamlin does basically nothing this whole time. He just lets it happen. Feyre gets upset with Rhys when he's like, you were going to call the wedding off anyway. You were going to say no. And he's kind of, he's correct, but so he's poking fun. And she gets upset and she throws her shoe at his head. I completely forgot that happened. Like, I don't know why, but I was just like, oh, let me make note of that. Like, she fully was like hating this man. She's then getting settled in the night court. Rhys explains the bargain bond that they have and then tells Feyre that he wants her to spend her first week learning how to read. We then get to meet Morrigan, or Moore, as she's going to be called the rest of the series. which is Rhysand's cousin, but he says in the loosest definition. And I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but in the loosest definition, they're cousins. We then have some reading and shielding lessons, little praise here and there from Rhysand, and then he tells Feyre that a war is coming. He kind of tells her that Hybern has these plans to take over, essentially, and he wants her to master her powers that both she and Tamlin claim she doesn't have. So her and Tamlin are maintaining, like, what are you talking about? What powers? Okay. He then takes her back to the Spring Court, and Tamlin immediately starts interrogating her. What did you see? What were you told? Tell me everything. And she's looking to him for comfort. She's like, I haven't seen you in a week. I missed you. And he's like, yeah, but like, so what did you see? She then tells Tamlin that Rhys thinks she has powers and asks if Tamlin and Lucien had the same suspicions, and that she wants to be trained, and Tamlin says no. Surprise, surprise. Tamlin says no. Now we're jumping to the tithe. I hope I'm saying that right. It's definitely not titty, so yeah, the tithe. We're going to go with that. And this is when Feyre gifts her jewelry to this water wraith so that she can pay her tithe. And it's like, Feyre is talking to Tamlin and is like, what's going on here? And he's like, no, she needs to come back in a few days and come up with the money that she owes me to protect her, which is a little crazy. And the wraith tells her, I will never forget this kindness, nor will my sisters. Of course, Tamlin's mad at Feyre for undermining him, and Lucien defends her. People love to be like, Lucien didn't do anything. He constantly defends her and plays the middleman between Feyre and Tamlin. This is also when Feyre accidentally slips into Lucien's mind, and she's like, it's so sad in there. Leave my man alone. Okay? Leave him alone. So Tamlin and Feyre apologize to each other after their little disagreement over giving away her jewelry. He then gives her a traveling paint set that she really didn't want. She's like, okay, cool. And then she tells him that all of the guards being around her constantly is suffocating. She feels like she's drowning. She's going to her partner and saying, these are the things I'm feeling. And his response is to completely explode. She's able to put up a shield of wind to protect herself from Tamlin, which is one of the first signs that we get of these powers. And it kind of drives me crazy because after that, she's like, oh, he makes love to me twice a day. Girl, shut the fuck up. Stand up. Stand up. Because what do you mean? Oh, now that's how he's making it up to you? Oh my God, get lost. Then it's been a month, so Rhys is showing up to take her back to the night court. Honestly, this is like a reverse period where like once a month for a week, she's being taken away to go. I'm sorry. I don't know why I just compared it to a period. Okay, I'm sorry. But I mean, he shows up unexpectedly, but like we know he's showing up. He shows up, takes her away for a month, and then brings her back. So I'm saying it's a reverse period because it's like the 1 week of, reprieve she has from the 3 awful weeks of the month. No, literally, I made a note here where it's like, it almost feels like getting your period because she starts to count, like, how many days has it been since he's been here? It's just giving period math. And Rhys is worried about her eating. He's like, are they feeding you over there, girly pop? Like, what's going on? So then Rhys is trying to get her to agree to help him by training. He opens up to her a little bit about Under the Mountain. He doesn't really see her much that week, but he's making an effort to like get her to feel something feel something. Even if it's anger, he just wants her to feel. And he brings her back to the Spring Court, and Tamlin goes back on his word and is like, you got guards again. Surprise! Happy birthday, baby! You got some guards. When Lucien notices that Feyre's powers are manifesting, he says he'll talk to Tamlin. He is like, I got you. I'm going to go talk to the guy. And again, like, I don't understand the Lucian hate. He really makes an effort for Feyre, and he can only do so much. Yes, he's loyal to Tamlin, has also known Tamlin for, I'm assuming, a couple hundred years. Just met Feyre, but is still doing what he can to help her. Whatever. I just get a little spicy when it comes to Lucian. Oh, and then when Lucian goes to Tamlin, Tamlin says no, who's then supported by Ianthe, who's like, oh, you should just be like a little doll, essentially. Then they get some kind of notification that something happened across their borders, and now Tamlin and Lucian are going to fight whatever this thing is. And that is when Tamlin decides to lock Feyre in the manor. She has a complete meltdown, naturally, and is then saved by Mor and taken out of the spring court. So then Feyre wakes up in the night court. Rhys is like, good, you're awake. I got somewhere to be. And she's like, no, please take me with you. Please take me with you. But he says that she has to agree to never speak of what she's about to see to anyone, but more specifically to anyone at the spring court. So he's like, you gotta keep a secret if you're coming with me. And then she is swept away to Velaris, the city of starlight. We then get into part 2, the House of Wind. Feyre kind of meets Rhysand's inner circle. They're around, she can hear them talking, but not like formal meetings yet. Feyre finds out that somehow Velaris wasn't affected by Amarantha whatsoever, but she doesn't know how that was able to happen. And she's having thoughts of not returning to the spring court. Now she's in Velaris a day and she's like, you know, I have a great idea. What if I didn't go back to the spring court? As she's walking through Velaris, Feyre starts to have these feelings of being upset that the people of Velaris didn't have to face Amarantha the way that she did. And then Rhys shows her the Rainbow of Velaris, which is the artist's area, which we all know Feyre's going to love. They go up to the House of Wind, and they tell each other some truths at the end of that chapter. If I remember correctly, it was like their feelings about Under the Mountain, I think. This is kind of when they continue the I'll tell you a truth for a truth thing from Under the Mountain, and then it's again seen later on. Then we have Feyre meeting Cassian, Azriel, and Amren. And then she has dinner with them, Mor and Rhysand. She hears a story of how Cassian and Azriel met Rhys. And then we find out that Rhysand's parents were mates, but they weren't right for each other. So we know that that's a possibility to be mated with someone, and they're not, you know, the perfect match. At this dinner is when Feyre decides to help the Night Court in any way possible. Rhysand then tells them about the King of Hybern and his plans to resurrect Jurian, and Feyre agrees to go with him to see the Bone Carver. So then Rhys tells Feyre the price that he paid to keep Velaris safe and all that he did to make that possible. She then later on has a nightmare about Amarantha. He wakes her up from it, and then as she's throwing up, he holds her hair back. And I know this was supposed to be a direct comparison of like Tamlin couldn't even be bothered to pretend that he heard her. And then Rhysand's over here like holding back her hair. I get it. But I'm also like, there are some things that happen later on that make me not the biggest fan of Rhysand either, but we'll get there when we get there. They go to the prison together, and then she can't bring herself to actually go inside because it's reminding her of Under the Mountain. She just says to Rhys, please, and immediately he brings her back to Velaris. Then Amren comes in, and Amren's like, girl, you gotta get in there. Here's a little amulet. If you wear this, the prison can't keep you. Which, reminder, Amren used to be in the prison and she escaped somehow. At this point, we still don't know. But she was like, here, this little necklace will stop you from being kept in the prison. So Feyre and Rhys go back to the prison. They meet the Bone Carver, and he presents himself to Feyre as an 8-year-old boy with dark hair and violet eyes. They ask him about being able to bring back someone from just a bone, and he said it's only possible with the cauldron. The only thing that can nullify the power of the cauldron is the Book of Breathings, which is already split into 2 parts. So, a lot to unpack there. And then Rhys reveals to Feyre that the bone carver appeared to him as Jurian. They come back, tell the inner circle, it's everyone except for Amren, so that's Mor, Cassian, and Azriel. What the bone carver told them, they make plans to infiltrate Hybern and get the book back. They separately make plans. 1, to infiltrate Hybern, and 2, to get the book back. They plan to go see the Weaver to test Feyre's abilities. And this is only, now we're getting to chapter 20. I feel like so much happens in this book. Like, it's one thing after the other, after the other. Like, it's really keeping you on your toes as opposed to A Court of Thorns and Roses. So we get to the Weaver's cottage. Reminder, the Weaver is blind. And she's singing the whole time that Feyre is there. And Feyre is drawn to this ring with a blue stone in it. Grabs the ring. The Weaver immediately stops singing. And then tries to catch Feyre. She's able to get away. She escapes the Weaver's cottage, and then she asks Cassian to train her. We find out that the ring belonged to Rhysand's mother, and that she gave it to the Weaver for safekeeping. And then Rhys explains why he doesn't like Ianthe and kind of shows Feyre what's going on there, which was, you know, she kind of had the bits out and was like, we're getting together or what? That whole thing. And yeah, so we don't fuck with the Ianthe. We never did, but she just was assuming that he wanted her bits, and hello? Why would anyone? Moving on. We learn that Mor is the most powerful in her family. Now, I go down a spiral, but I do think that there's more to Mor than what we know, and I think that it's gonna like come out later on that she's super powerful. I mean, she's Rhysand's third, because Amren's the second, so interesting. They're preparing to go to the human lands, and Azriel carries Feyre to fly in. Feyre sees her sisters. They find out she's Fae, and then Feyre finds out that Elaine is getting married in 5 months to this guy whose family hates fairies. Love that for her. Then we have dinner with the sisters, and Nesta's being a little standoffish. They stay the night, and just a little detail of something that happened here. Rhys warms the bed that Feyre is staying in, and he thanks her, and he's like, Amarantha never thanked me. This man. Then we have a moment where Rhys is training with Feyre in the human lands. A little bit of light flirting, and then Feyre is caught by the adder. Now, we then find out that Rhys kind of knew they were being followed and wanted to see what would happen if she was left alone, so she was used as bait. Azriel shows up, takes the adder away, and Rhys rage baits Feyre into winnowing. So now we know that Feyre is able to winnow. And then Feyre tells Rhys to never use her as bait again, and he apologizes to her. I do feel like we don't see a lot of apologies from Rhys in general, but when we do, it's usually to Feyre or someone in his inner circle. And also, did we ever hear Tamlin apologize for anything? Asking for a friend. Rhysand then lets... I keep saying Rhysand, but... Rhys then lets Feyre into his mind to see how Azriel was able to get all this information from the adder, which was through torture. And she writes a letter to Tamlin telling him that she will not be coming back. So she has made her decision. I'm done. I'm not doing this with Tamlin no more. It's a wrap. And then Amren reveals to Feyre that the necklace wasn't magic. She just told her that so that she would go into the prison, which I just find very funny. The inner circle goes out to dinner, and we find out that Amren doesn't eat food, but she drinks blood. And she's some kind of other being. We don't really know yet. Mor, Cassian, and Azriel go to Rita's to go dancing together, and Rhys walks home with Feyre. As they're walking back, Feyre hears the song that was sent into her cell when they were under the mountain. And Rhys says that he sent it to her because he knew she was breaking and was doing anything he could to save her. Love that. And then Rhys and Feyre flirting back and forth with the notes. Love that. That was like one of my favorite parts. Then we have Feyre training with Cassian, and all of her feelings towards Tamlin's lack of effort under the mountain come up, and she's punching these training pads and ends up burning through them because she's able to summon some kind of heat to her hands. And then Rhys envelops them with his wings, so it's just the two of them, and has this moment talking to her and tells her about the two types of nightmares that he has. And it's about, if I remember correctly, Amarantha. Yes, if I remember correctly, it's Amarantha torturing or using the people of the inner circle, so the people closest to him. And the second one is of her neck snapping. Rhys finds out that they got permission to go to the summer court, and he's going to be taking Feyre and Amren with him. Cassian's a bit upset about this because he's been banned for life from the summer court. I still want to know what happened. Like, I wish we got a bonus chapter from Cassian's POV, like that whole brawl that started in the summer court that apparently took down a building. I need to know about that. We then meet Tarquin, who's the High Lord of the Summer Court. We also meet Cressida, who's the Princess of the Summer Court, and Varys, who's the Prince and the General of the armies for the Summer Court. Cressida is really pressing for information on Feyre's relationship with Tamlin, and they're like, do we need to return you to Tamlin? Girl, shut up. And Rhys basically threatens to kill anyone that tries to take her back to Tamlin. He's like, we're not doing that. Then we have a little moment on Tarquin's pleasure barge. Feyre talks with Tarquin and tells him it would be easy to fall in love with him and easy to be his friend. Meanwhile, Feyre sees Rhys flirting with Cressida, which is making her a little jealous. Love to see it. Because she's realizing, like, oh, that bothers me. Tarquin then invites Feyre, or I guess she kind of invites herself, to see the treasures of the summer court, because she's trying to find where the Book of Breathings is. So she's like, let me get shown around. Come on, wine and dine me a little bit. He then takes her to the summer court treasure trove, and he thanks her for Under the Mountain, explains to her that Rhys did him a favor by killing his cousin because of what he knew, and he knows that Rhys defied Amarantha to do that. Rhys then admits to being jealous of Tarquin, and Feyre finds out that Rhys didn't even kiss Cressida. He was just playing the part. Feyre is then strolling through the city, trying to find the book, and she thinks she feels some sort of pull from this building that it is apparently only revealed at low tide, which is the perfect place to put it because you can only see it certain times of the day and from certain angles. She asks about this building and is immediately brushed off, but then she uses her powers to slip into Tarquin's mind. She says later on she feels guilty for doing this, but she convinces Tarquin's mental barriers that she is Tarquin to let her in and then implant into his mind that she means no harm, which is so incredible. Like, that's actually crazy. The way that Feyre has all of these powers is actually so insane to me, because she then completely shapeshifts her body to become Tarquin and then tricks the spelled door into letting her in. Amren and Feyre go together to go get the book. They finally get to the book, which isn't believing that she's Tarquin, and it immediately locks them in the chamber, and the tide is starting to come back in. So now water's rising, and the two of them are stuck in this, basically about to be their tomb. They are on the brink of drowning when they are saved by water wraiths, and the water wraiths say their sister's debt is paid. Rhys takes them back to Valaris, and they discover that only one person can read the book, and that one person is Amren. And then Rhys talks about how they might have what they need to release her in the book. Then they receive blood rubies from Tarquin, which are basically promising to kill them on sight if they show their faces in the summer court again. Rhys blames himself for not wiping the memories of the soldiers that were there, but of course he's going to blame himself. Feyre then tries to cheer up Rhys by offering to go shopping for some lingerie with him. And then she has this fantasy of what would have happened if they went, and then come to find out it's Rhys planting that in her mind, I just thought it was pretty good, okay? Rhys then has a nightmare that Feyre snaps him out of, and we now know that he sleeps naked, which, are any of us surprised? No, we're not. And she sees that he has 2 tattoos on his knees of mountains with stars above them. After all of this, she kisses him on the cheek, and she says that she's been inspired to paint by a few things now, one of them being Rhys kneeling on the bed. I'm sure she is. He's got everything hanging out, and she's like, I feel inspired. I should paint this. We then learn that the tattoos on his knees mean that he will bow before no one and nothing but his crown. So it's the Night Court insignia that he has on both knees. We then have a little back and forth banter through the notes that they're sending each other. A lot of waiting for the Mortal Queens to respond. They reached out to the Mortal Queens because they have the other half of the book. So they're trying to convince them to give it to them so they can have both halves. When the Mortal Queens finally respond, everyone is heading to Feyre's family estate in the human lands, getting ready for the meeting, and we find out that the human queens can winnow. The meeting doesn't go super well. Moore steps forward and is like, I have the gift of truth, and then reveals to them that Miriam and Dracon are still alive on this hidden island. Now, if you don't remember Miriam and Dracon, I think it's talked about earlier, but basically, no, I think we did talk about this when we talk about Jurian, but Jurian was in love with Miriam. Did we talk about this? Miriam and Dracon escaped or thought to be dead, but surprise, surprise, they're actually alive on this hidden island, and Moore reveals that to the human queens. The queens then demand proof that Rhys isn't a monster. They're like, we don't believe you that all of these great things, exist, so you're going to need to show us proof of some type. Then the inner circle is kind of discussing, like, what do we show the queens to show them that Rhys is a good guy at his core? And they decide they need to show them Valaris. They plan a trip to the Court of Nightmares because they got to go pick something up over there. They tell Feyre the story of Miriam and Dracon here. Okay. They tell them the whole story here. This is chapter 41. Rhys then also tells Feyre about Moore and Eris and Cassian. So Moore was basically supposed to marry Eris, who is allegedly the next in line for Autumn Court. But she instead goes to Cassian, has sex with him. So then she's, spoiled goods or whatever these guys want to call it. And now Eris is like, I'm not going to get with her because she's no longer a virgin. That's crazy. Her family then beat the shit out of her, nailed a note to her body, and dumped her on the Autumn Court border. And then Eris didn't do anything. He didn't take her. And then Azriel was the one to find her. And Rhys is kind of stressing about Feyre seeing who he has to pretend to be when they go to the Court of Nightmares. Mostly because I think she's starting to warm up to him, and he's then having to go back and play this part that he had played under the mountain. So then we have them flying to the Court of Nightmares when there's some ash arrows fired at them. None of them actually hit their mark. They try to hunt down who was shooting at them, but they're like, we gotta get to the Court of Nightmares. Moving on. Feyre then plays the part of Rhysand's plaything, super hot and heavy petting on the throne in front of everyone. And her body is having a physical reaction to him. And his is having a physical reaction as well. And he's like, it's just your body's natural reaction. Like, don't worry about it. This chapter is so good. It's honestly one of my favorites of this entire series. I love this chapter so much. We meet Moore's dad. His name's Keir. And he insults Feyre. And Rhys immediately breaks his bones. Immediately. And he tells Keir that he's not allowed to see a healer. And makes him apologize to Feyre. So Rhys and Feyre are having a little bit of a disagreement after that whole thing went down. And he's apologizing for showing her that side of him, for threatening Keir. And he then follows that up with, I will still kill anyone that hurts you. Hot. That is hot. And then they go back and forth. Rhys kind of starts breaking down, and he does not want to be compared to Tamlin. Rightfully so. Feyre then throws things back in his face, which really strikes a chord when she makes a comment about how it's easier for him to put up a mask and not let someone in, because if they see everything and still walk away, who could blame them? And then she calls him a mess, and he visibly flinches. So she realizes that at this point, after all that, she realizes she wants to explore things with Rhys. And then Amren tells Feyre that Rhys was a ghost when he came back, but she makes him come alive again. Very important to note. We then have the Starfall festivities. Feyre hasn't seen Rhys since they got into that whole thing, and she called him a mess. He shows up, and she's kind of surprised that he's there. Takes her to this private balcony to see the stars. They both apologize to each other. He seems a little sad, and more Azriel and Cassian are dancing together like it's their last night, because they're preparing to go to war. They're like, this could be our last Starfall together, which is actually crazy because they just got Rhys back. We find out that Starfall isn't actually stars, it's spirits on a yearly migration. Interesting. Then there's the Starfall scene that's usually made into fan art where they're laughing, playing with the stardust, painting each other. And he tells her a truth. He says that he wishes he could take back the kiss from under the mountain because he didn't make it pleasant for her. For her. And that he was jealous and he did it out of jealousy. Love it. Ugh, it's so good. Later on, they go to the Illyrian war camp. Rhys says if anyone touches Feyre, Feyre will kill you. And he also says that Feyre is his. They train together. Rhys tells her about Tamlin's involvement in killing his mother and sister. Now, we can talk later about the theory on that actually never happening, but Tamlin and his brothers and dad found out. So Rhys told Tamlin that his mom and sister were going to be traveling in this certain spot. Tamlin told his dad and brother, who then met the sister and mom there, murdered them. And then I think it said in this part, but they sent their heads down the river in boxes. And she's asking him, well, why didn't you tell me this before? And he's like, I didn't want to turn you against him. Or think I was telling you just for the point of turning you against him. And she tells him that she wants to paint him like one of her French girls. Rhys and Feyre are practicing her using her gifts. They're kind of training together again. Lucien and some Spring Court Sentinels. Sentinels? I don't know. Lucien pulls up with 2 soldiers, or I think it was 4. Lucien pulls up with some soldiers from the Spring Court. And Lucien is trying to get Feyre to come back to the Spring Court. He's like, please, you've got to come back. And she's saying, Lucien, you just let it all happen. I disagree a little bit. I don't think that he just let all this happen. I think he did what he could without disobeying his high lord. She then manifests wings and tells Lucien, go home. And he decides to give up. But before he leaves, Lucien says to Rhys, you and your whole court are dead. Okay, Lucien, I don't believe you, but alas. Feyre and Rhys get to an inn and there's only one bed. I don't know why I forgot about this. I don't know how I was able to forget about this, but there's only one bed. They enjoy a nice little warm meal together. He opens up about how he wants her, but the room is too small to properly bed her. Okay, Rhys, I see your game. I see it. They claim they're going to cuddle together for some body heat, which turns into some wandering hands. Little finger actions, kissy kissy. He says that he wants to wait until he can be loud as fuck. He's like, I need to be able to make noise, and I can't do that here, and I need more space to do you. Okay, a proper gentleman. Love it. They are then flying to the next spot. Rhys is then hit by ash arrows, wraps his wings around Feyre to protect her. Bunch of ash arrows in his wings. And when he is going down, he like throws Feyre away from him. And he hasn't been using his magic because it's being tracked. So somehow they were still able to track him. Now we have unlocked badass Feyre. Not that it wasn't unlocked before, but now she's like, oh, you're messing with my man. So she starts winnowing to get to Rhys, and she's tracking him through his scent because his scent is mixed with her scent. She kills all the guards to get to Rhys, finds him, winnows them to a different spot. She then takes the arrows out of his wings, tells him about the dresser that she had painted for her and her sisters. And then she says she wonders if she was looking for this place, meaning Velaris, and looking for the Court of Dreams. And Rhys says he was looking for her too. Rhys is essentially slowly dying of this poison. Feyre then goes to capture the cereal, and it tells her to use her blood to heal Rhys. Then he just casually drops that Rhys is her mate. She storms back over to the cave, heals him, and then gets mad at him for not telling her. She feels like the people around her, the Court of Dreams, were making decisions for her, just like at the Spring Court, which is true. And Rhys says that he knew that they were mates since Amarantha was trying to kill her under the mountain. Okay. Rhys winnows them back to the Illyrian camp and asks... Oh, and then Feyre asks Mor to take her far away. She's like, I need to get out of here. Mor takes her to this cabin in the mountains and tell her that she's never seen Rhys so happy. And Feyre's like, I don't give a fuck. I don't want to hear it. I do not care that he's happy. I'm mad at him. Which, okay, pop off. That's going to bring us to part 3, the House of Mist. So Feyre's up in this cabin. She's painting little bits and pieces of the entire inner circle. Mor comes to check on her and is like, you should really hear Rhys out. Like, you should really hear him out. Girl, if you don't mind your own business. Mor then stays with Feyre for the night, but leaves in the morning. Feyre gets the idea to open some kind of paint shop so she can teach other people that have experienced hard times like her how to use art to get through those hard times, essentially. I think she's there for a total of 8 days. She's there by herself for 3 more visits. And then 5 days after, there's a knock at the door. Who can it be? Oh, I wonder who could be at the door. These are the 2 chapters that everyone talks about. This is chapter 54 and chapter 55. So I have so many notes just for chapter 54 because so much lore is dropped. So bear with me here. So Rhys is now at the cottage. He flew there because he can't use his magic, and so that's what took him so long to get there. She starts to make him some soup, and he's like, oh, it is really important when a female makes her mate some kind of food and offers it to him. It's her accepting the mating bond. So she's like, all right, tell me your side of the story, and I'll let you know if you can have the soup. So then he starts talking about being captured during the war and how he saw Amarantha torture and kill Jurian. And as Amarantha was taking away his powers, he used the last of his powers to wipe Velaris from the minds of the people in the Court of Nightmares and to bind his friends to protect Velaris. And he spoke to them mind to mind. And so they were not allowed to leave Velaris. They had to stay there and protect it. He talks about being able to see Feyre in his dreams. Oh, sorry. He talks about being able to see Feyre's dreams and was trying to figure out where she was. So that also confirms from earlier that the little darkness spots in her dreams were Rhys. He said on Calanmai, he killed those 3 fae that were trying to like corner her because he looked into their minds and saw what they planned on doing to her. And he made them admit to things that they didn't actually do to Amarantha so that they would be killed. He admitted to making Tamlin beg that day because he wanted to scare Tamlin enough to send Feyre back home because he was afraid of what Amarantha would do to her if she got her hands on her. He then talks about how upset he was when Tamlin used the little time he gave him to just make out with Feyre instead of trying to get her out. He describes what it felt like to feel her die and how he spoke mind to mind with all the other High Lords to get them to bring her back. And the bond really snapped into place when she turned Fae. After all that, she asks if he loves her. He nods, and she offers him the soup. So then chapter 54... No, that's chapter 54. So now chapter 55, Rhys eats the soup. Then he eats Feyre on the table. Lots of pain all over the place. They move to the bedroom. Little bath time to clean up. He tells her that the mortal queens agreed to meet them again. Apparently they got very little sleep. Okay? Rhys is working her out. And he tells her that this frenzy is normal when the mating bond is accepted. Back at the Illyrian war camp, which Rhys winnows to, which he wasn't trying to use his magic because he's being tracked. But I think they said that it's okay for him to winnow into the Illyrian mountains because whoever is tracking him will just get their ass beat in the Illyrian mountains. Cassian basically picks a fight with him so that he can release this tension. They go back to Valaris, which they winnow there as well, so he's using his powers. And the inner circle vows to serve and protect Feyre as Rhys's mate. Then they head to their meeting with the Mortal Queens. Now, the meeting with the Mortal Queens, only 2 of them show up. They got this Veritas orb from the Court of Nightmares, and they use it to show the queens Valaris. The older queen reveals that Rhys wrote a letter to them, basically begging them to help because he loved Feyre, and he's like, the woman that I love is, she was a human and this means a lot to her, and he was admitting his love before ever admitting it to Feyre. So Nesta decides to speak up, and the queens are not having it. Cassian vows to fight for the humans, but more importantly, to fight and protect Nesta. Rhys offers for her sisters to come to Valaris, but Elaine says she can't, because she's got that Fae-hating fiance to get to. So Rhys is like, I'm going to send sentries here to guard the house. If you change your mind, someone will be here every day at noon. You tell him you want to come to Valaris, you'll be taken there. Nesta bows her head at the end of the chapter, I think in thanks to Rhys, which, very rare sighting from Nesta. And then she asks Feyre if that's why she painted stars on her drawer. The last 100 pages of this book, absolutely crazy. So then we have Hybern's attack on Valaris. They killed the human queen that gave them the other half of the book. So one of the queens had the other half of the book underneath her skirts. When they winnow out, she left the book. So now they have both halves of the Book of Breathings. Feyre uses water to make wolves that hunt down and kill the invading soldiers. She sees the adder and immediately is like, bet, that's my target. Winnows into the sky with an ash arrow and takes him out, basically. Rhys is finally able to speak into her mind and is asking her where she is. She then kills the adder, falls to the sky while stabbing him, and then winnows away. And then she's reunited with Rhys. Amren then figures out how to nullify the cauldron. They make plans to break into the stronghold of the King of Hybern. Wonder how that's going to go. They're suggesting that Rhys stays outside because his magic can be tracked. Rhys tells Feyre about his mother's ring. She says after Hybern she wants to get married and do all the things, and he asks her if he can take that one step further. At this point, we don't know what that means. They're getting ready to leave Valaris. Cassian and Azriel swear to protect Feyre with their lives, and Mor says she already knows her orders. We don't know Mor's orders, but Mor says she knows her orders. Feyre then realizes that the order is basically to get Feyre out if something happens, and then come back for Azriel and Cassian later. So Feyre is the number one priority. They fly and then winnow into the castle and make it to the room with the cauldron. The Book of Breathings is talking to Feyre and tells her to put the two halves together after Amren specifically told her not to do that. She unites them, her nose starts bleeding, and she basically isn't on this plane of existence anymore. She's kind of tweaking out, and then as snaps her out of it, Jurian enters the room. The king enters behind Jurian. Jurian then shoots a poison arrow through Azriel's chest to make them all comply. And then Lucien and Tamlin enter after the king and says that the king is like, I upheld my part of the bargain. It's now time for you to uphold yours. So we find out that Tamlin made some kind of bargain with the king. The king turns over Feyre, and now he can use the spring court to enter Prythian and take down the wall. The bargain was also to break the bond between Rhys and Feyre. But at this point, they mean the bargain bond because they don't know that the mating bond exists. But now, because they're in the room together, Tamlin knows that they're mates, but he doesn't give a fuck. He's like, nah, we're still breaking that bond. And then Feyre promises to destroy Tamlin's home and everything he loves if he makes her go back. The gag of the season is the 4 human queens enter with Nesta and Elaine behind them, bound and gagged. We find out that Ianthe was the one to suggest that Feyre would want her sisters for eternity, so they should be turned fae. The king releases this wave of power. Rhys is able to shield Feyre, but does not cover Cassian for whatever reason, and it rips up Cassian's wings. So then Elaine and Nesta are being put into the cauldron to turn them fae, and Lucien is trying to get to Elaine, and Cassian is trying to get to Nesta. Elaine goes into the cauldron, comes out, and immediately Lucien's like, you're my mate. Okay, love to see it. Love to see it. I ship them together. Don't care. Don't care. I don't do the Azriel and Elaine BS. No thank you. And if you ship it, good for you. However, I'm not riding that train. Nesta goes into the cauldron, and Cassian's trying to crawl to her. Then Feyre puts on the show of her lifetime, and she pretends that Rhys has had control of her mind this whole time, and Rhys and Mor play along. He's like, how were you able to break out of my hold? And then Cassian seems to understand what's happening as well. She asks the king to break the bond, and at the end of that chapter it says, and the bond snaps. I'm sorry, what? It just snapped? Mor then grabs the sisters. Rhys grabs the boys. They all dip. So when Feyre was putting on that show, she was actually removing the wards around where they were so that they could winnow out. Lucien is absolutely pissed that his mate was just taken because he thinks that she's being taken to essentially the Court of Nightmares. The king is now pissed because they don't have the Book of Breathings anymore. Then we get a chapter from Rhys-Sand's point of view. So he's back in the townhouse with Amren and Mor. They're trying to patch up the boys. He says that the king broke the bargain between the two of them, but not the mating bond. He reveals that Feyre will now be spying for them and that she is also High Lady of the Night Court. So we started off with that doesn't exist to now Feyre is the High Lady of the Night Court, and they're planning to destroy the Spring Court from the inside, essentially. So then back to Feyre's point of view, Tamlin brings her back to the Spring Court, and Lucien is not buying what she's selling. He's like, really? You're so happy to be back, huh? And she's saying that she wants to be involved in the planning and scheming of things, and Tamlin agrees. This ends with Lucien giving her the side eye from his good eye, and her saying to herself, they unknowingly let the High Lady of the Night Court into their lands. That is a full chapter-by-chapter summary of everything that happened in A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I really hope that these are helpful. My goal was to basically condense everything down to one podcast episode, so you just have to listen to that. You kind of remember all of the things that happened. These are like the main events, and then you don't have to reread every single book. But thank you so much for listening. If you've made it this far, feel free to send me a bat emoji. And yeah, I just really hope these are helpful. I overthink a lot, and so I'm like, is this helpful? Do people want a summary? I really hope it is helpful, but I'm just looking forward to talking about all the theories with you. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.